because like the kind of revolution the left is talking about is a fundamentally different one that involves the fucking means of production, not like, you know, cutting people off from the you know, the ability to give feedback to their government through democracy. Usually that's not what the left wing is targeting here. I feel like there's a total double standard in the way, and it's more than just race that's going on here. I'm gonna say what I said to Destiny last Friday, and it's the second time we mentioned his name. Try not to do it a third time because he will show up if we do. About cops and MAGA protesters, and they're sort of having this weird resonance, this disturbing and scary to me resonance with the protesters. Like when they look at these protesters, they see their brother, they see their aunt, they see their, you know, sister, they see their niece, right? When they look at Black Lives Matter protesters, they're a little bit less familiar with who these people are, and they look at them with a lot more like trepidation and distrust, you know, like whether it's whether we're talking about like, you know, black protesters or other people that showed up to, you know, protest, let's be honest, like police misconduct. You know, they take this a little bit personally and they tend to otherize, you know, these people. I just think it's really disturbing, and the cops aren't the only one who are doing these this underestimation. Like, I swear to God, I'm not trying to essentialize white straight male cis dudes or anything like that. I've got like white male cis friends, you know, but I feel like y'all are kind of underestimating this shit, and it feels like us marginalized people are like the only ones who are like blowing the whistle on this shit, because we've got a lot more skin in the game if fucking shit goes down, and by shit I mean our government. So yeah, I'm a little that's it. I'm done.
No, white males are terrible. Hey Drew, how are you doing?
I'm official white male right here. Yeah, cancel. Yeah, right. So there's a lot going on right now. Yeah, I guess I just say I don't think these are analogous events at all. I don't think you can compare events where you've had like months longs of protests, like bunches and bunches of protests where the cops are prepared for these things in different ways to like a sort of a spur of the moment riot. Like, I don't think that you can compare the use of force in those two situations. Yeah, and I can get more into that later. I just don't think it's a fair comparison. I also just don't like the armchair psychoanalysis of the cops that's going on right here about how they have some super secret bond to these people. Like, I would remind people that there were some heroic ass cops like fighting off a fuck ton of people to save our officials. They killed a woman to defend them. One of the cops has died. And I also like this point that somehow the cops were simultaneously not overrun and also so overrun that they had the riot shields taken from them to smash windows. That's a pretty fantastic contradiction you've got going on right there. Unless you're suggesting that they were literally handed riot gear to break into the Capitol, which seems pretty conspiratorial to me. It seems like you've got some weird, there's a lot of weird shit going on here about this event. I appreciate the sentiment. I understand that like we don't want misapplication and unfair use of force and a discrepancy between use of force of different populations. That would be wrong. I just don't think this is a fair example of that.
Okay, Connor.
So, I mean, there's a lot, and again, I feel completely fucking trapped. It's actually really painful for me because I want to be charitable, but I also, you know, I want charity extended to me. So for instance, I think it's normal. I was a police. For those of you who don't know, I was a law enforcement officer for 4 years. When I had Jim Bob in his truck and he said, I have a concealed weapons permit, and he notified me that, and his hands were at 10 and 2, I was at complete ease because I basically knew that if I was getting the shit kicked out of me on the side of the road, Jim Bob in his fucking pickup truck with his concealed weapons permit was going to be the first person to stop and probably kill the person who was beating the fuck out of me. So I think it's okay to acknowledge that there's probably an overlap between conservatives, law enforcement, and conservative sympathy. I don't think we need to fight this vociferously. Now, there are progressive cops, there's lefty cops, there's liberal cops, but let's be real, it's probably like a 2 to 3, it's a 2 to 1 ratio at least, right? Okay, so let's just concede that there might be some sympathy between cops and conservatives. Then finally, I think that underestimating the threat is probably accurate. And the reason why underestimating the threat was accurate, intentional or not, was because you literally had cops getting beaten with blue line American flags. You literally had cops getting beaten with American flags. So most cops are patriots. They love their country. They believe in the Constitution. They want to support their country. So they would never see, basically somebody using an American flag or a blue line flag. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the American flag with a thin blue line in the middle of it to beat them with. So I think there was probably an underestimation on an individual level that basically, but that doesn't matter. Actually, because when push came to shove, the cops started doing their jobs, which was beating the fuck out of people, protecting fucking members of Congress. One of the cops was beaten to death with a fire extinguisher. There's videos of cops being trapped in doorways and pinned and crushed by protesters. There was and then there was the cop. I forget. I think it's like Eugene Goodman, who literally saw that there were senators and Congress people who were trapped, who weren't able to make it to a safe space, and he literally fainted, and then fainted FEINTED, and then dragged the crowd away from members of Congress specifically so they wouldn't be killed. So one of the frustrating things, and I'll try to be brief, I'll try to wrap it up in the next minute, was people questioning the physical bravery or the moral bravery of the cops who were on Capitol Hill. I won't do that. What I would question is actually the competence and intelligence of the higher level administration and chain of command. So it's not the individual cop. The individual cop might have been there and he's like, we have 300,000 fucking people here, or however many fucking people are here. This is terrifying. And they still did their job. What did happen though was a captain, a lieutenant, a deputy chief, a chief said, the MAGA people aren't going to do shit. I'm not going to sufficiently staff, and I'm also not going to sufficiently call for backup for this event. So rather than attacking the individual morality or the individual virtue of the law enforcement officers on the ground, who I largely think acquitted themselves fairly well, what I would question is the competence, intelligence, and threat assessment of the higher level administrators who were responsible for this event.
Pisco.
Thank you. On the first question, whether or not this was a proportional response, the answer is almost certainly no. It should have been much harsher than what we saw on January 6th. Why? Why could I possibly say that? Someone was killed, after all. Let's not mince words about what this was. This was a coup attempt. For those of you who are equivocating about that, or sort of having this discussion about whether or not this was a coup attempt, or maybe you think, along with Scott Adams on Twitter, that because it was unsophisticated or unlikely to succeed, it's therefore not a coup attempt. I think you are deluded. A coup attempt, there's various definitions, but one of which is the illegal or overt attempt by elites within the state apparatus to unseat the government. That is clearly fulfilled here with the involvement of Donald Trump and his paramilitary or militia supporters who were at this rally. It was an insurrection. It was an act of domestic terrorism, and required the harshest possible response by the government, especially at a moment in which they were certifying the results of a free and fair election. So to answer the question about proportionality, no, the response should have been much harsher. I am surprised that so few people died in this incident. I don't want to see dozens and dozens of people dead, but it just is a reality that we cannot let. I spoke with someone earlier before this week about, well, they shouldn't have killed the woman, right? The people in the Capitol cannot be allowed to occupy this area. They can't. I don't care what, whether or not you think that she was dangerous or anything like that. At a certain point, someone who's crawling through a window to get at a place where potentially elected leaders are, they need to be stopped. The question, I noticed something that was said by, I think, Drew, about whether or not the cops were overrun. They were unquestionably overrun. Unquestionably. I don't think there's any dispute about that. I wouldn't be too sure with Counterpoints. I know that he wants to defend individual cops on the scene. I think a lot of them did their job admirably. One of them died, or I think now two have died from what happened. But there are already over a dozen investigations, I think, into the Capitol Police. 2 have been suspended already. I think there might have been 1 arrest so far. So this has been a total debacle from top to bottom. The leaders of these agencies and police forces have quit or been fired. And with respect to the difference in response between BLM protesters and the rioters at Capitol Hill, I think proof is in the pudding. You see the response in Lafayette Square and you see the response in Capitol Hill. Someone explain that difference. You say that it wasn't foreseeable, Drew. It was totally, eminently foreseeable this was going to happen. For weeks, we knew that January 6th was a big, important date. More notice, I think, than the BLM presence in Lafayette Square. So I don't want to hear these, I think, shameful arguments that the response was as good as it could be, or that somehow there's some neutral principle that distinguishes either response.
So before you respond, I know I'm supposed to do this before we like in between subjects, but I always fucking forget. Hey guys, follow me. You haven't followed me yet. We have these conversations 6 days a week. This is one of my walk on my invite only panels where we have big brains coming on to discuss big brain topics. If you're enjoying this so far, please give me a follow. We have other invite only panels that you'll see throughout the week. And beyond that, we have walk-on panels where audience members like you, yes, you can be involved. So if any of that interests you, please give me a follow. Beyond that, if you are enjoying this content, give me a sub to this channel. That's the only way we can keep this content coming towards you in such a regular basis, right? And we bring a whole lot of content. So if you find this valuable, please give me a sub. If you have a Twitch Prime, Prime Gaming, Amazon Prime, you can support the channel without costing yourself a dime. So please consider using that on this channel. Beyond that, donate bits, donate subs. And also we have a PayPal button below this screen. If you scroll down, click that button if you want to cut Bezos out of the picture altogether. He's only the second richest man now, and let's keep him that way. Maybe keep his ego in check. So everyone, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Yes, and if you can, give me a follow and also definitely give me a sub if that's a possibility. All right, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. So I need to defend myself a little bit here because Pisco just kind of attacked me here. I need to be extremely clear. This was an insurrection attempt. Fuck those people that attacked the Capitol. Like, completely un-American. Fuck you if you think you're a conservative and attack the fucking Capitol. You don't get to attack the institutions that we try to uphold and then pretend like you actually care about those institutions. So fuck those people. Number two, the response was not as good as it should have been. To be extremely clear, there should have been way more force. My only point is that I don't think that it has anything to do with the race of the people that were there. I think everyone was genuinely shocked by this event, and people that pretend that this was totally foreseen, you're deluding yourself. This was shocking. People
I don't think it was shocking.
It was shocking. Like, look, do not like. I'm sorry. Like, I understand. Like, I get Trump's rhetoric's terrible. I get that.
Wait, have you got all the
If
facts?
anyone,
though? Like, do you know about the parlor? Like, this has been set up since November or December. Wait, I'm not sure. I mean, do you have all the facts on this before saying this?
I was writing on my personal Facebook page like a week before this incident happened that there are going to be people who are going to try to inflict a coup d'état in the Capitol on January 6th.
Okay, so to be clear, if there are facts that I'm unaware of, I'm happy to shift my perspective. Okay, so to be clear, so there's no reason for the aggression.
I just didn't want to dunk on you over facts that you might not have. Yeah.
So if I don't have any particular facts, I understand that. And if for some reason we have those facts and those facts were not relayed to the Capitol Police for whatever reason, that is a failing on their part, to be clear. So
relayed, you mean they didn't investigate it at all because they didn't take it seriously?
Yeah, they're not.
Do you wait? Do you know that, Mark, or are you saying
what else explains it? What else explains it?
Wait. If they weren't aware of it, look.
How could they not have been aware of it? Congress.
Look, here's the thing. Either they didn't do their jobs in leading up to the thing, or they didn't do their jobs when they were there.
Agreed. Okay, look, they should have whatever the case, they should have found a way to know about this if this was an organized attempt prior. Okay, period. I'm just saying that they knew about it and didn't investigate enough. I'm not really sure what
they know about the Black Lives Matter.
We all know this and they don't, and they're the police. There was a failing on their part.
Okay, so I need to address that.
I'm some fucking streamer in Flint, Michigan. I'm nowhere near DC. I knew this was coming weeks in advance. I've been calling this. I've been blowing the whistle on this for months now. That Trump's rhetoric was going to lead to mass violence leading up to the inauguration, and it's going to happen again. They're already talking about it.
Yeah, fair warning, everyone. It's happening again next week. Get ready.
Okay. Okay. I need it.
Yeah.
Can I jump?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Thank you. So this is what I wanted to say. Basically, this gets back to damned if you do and damned if you don't. I'm not going to disagree with the fact that there's a failure here. Almost every, especially the DC police, especially the Capitol Police, nearly every major metro police department that has more than a few hundred officers has a intelligence unit, and the intelligence unit largely does like open source investigations, basically paying attention to social media and all that kind of shit. But what I want to point out, is that so Pisco, your point about individual cops basically not acquitting themselves well, being investigated, and even some of them being
it's a mixed bag, right? I'm not going to
administratively. Yeah, but I mean, this is what I'll say about cops, which I think is true of infantrymen and soldiers as well, and Marines. So people who serve in the military and people who serve in law enforcement, it's literally 50-50 split down the middle. It's 50% the best, most ideal, awesome human beings you've ever met in your entire life, and it's 50% shitbags. It's just true. So I'm not surprised that they caught some shitbags doing shitbag shit. Okay, but the point being that they should have known, but these decisions are made at the top. So basically, the administration would have been responsible for staffing. The administration would have been responsible for coordinating with other law enforcement agencies. The administration would have been, the administration would have been coordinated with the, responsible for coordinating with the National Guard. So here's a question that like you and I can't answer. Was it incompetence? Was it malevolence? Like who fucking knows? But my point being that like, if I'm a cop, if I'm a beat cop, I show up to work the next day for shift because I need a fucking paycheck. So I'm not making the decision on whether or not I have a few hundred people or a few thousand people to help me secure the Capitol.
Well, so to be clear, I feel like
response,
can I just say really quickly,
do you think it was a good response? What happened during the BLM protests in DC? Was that a proper response?
Well, okay, so here's an interesting question that I wanted to bring up as well. So during the BLM protests, allegedly, more property was protected, or at least more important property was protected, and there was less loss of life. So what lane do you want to pick here?
Wait, there's no hypocrisy here. There's absolutely no hypocrisy. With respect to there's less loss of life because they're not beating Capitol police officers to death, and they're not trying to attack senators. So
let me ask Mark.
They weren't showing up with a fucking gallows calling for Mike Pence's head.
Yeah, the protesters were less violent lunatics.
They were asking people to not kill them.
Okay, hold on. So
and they were shot with rubber bullets.
Question. You can have here's my question. You can have a show of force. You can have thousands of security forces on the ground with less lethal munitions, tear gas, gas canisters, and all that kind of stuff, and that can prevent loss of life and property destruction. So here's my question. So it kind of sounds like you're saying it's inappropriate in both circumstances. It's inappropriate when they overuse less lethal munitions during the Black Lives Matter protests, and it's also inappropriate when they underuse.
They were over punitive and over zealous and way out of proportion in both cases. On one side, they were way too harsh for the Lafayette Square protest. They should not have cleared that square. They should not have, and they were way under enforcing of this protest. So both things can be true, and there's no hypocrisy.
Yeah. Okay. The response should have been something in the middle, and it should have been the same response for both.
Can I just say, as a cop, there's no right way to beat a citizen's ass. Like seriously, like there's no correct way to enforce violence on a human being.
Talking about that. They're talking about actually providing some sort of security response rather than sitting there and going, "Oh shit, I got overwhelmed because I didn't actually take this seriously because these are the type of people that align with me politically."
Who's saying that though? The beat cop or the administrator? Who are you calling out right now?
A little bit of both.
Do you have to pick one? Yeah,
but to be clear, there were 1,400 police officers there, right? So it's not like they were like on light duty. I mean, obviously, it seems like there should have been more. They should have more equipment, more backup. Yeah. But it's not like they just didn't have any police there. There were over 1,000, right? So they were just overwhelmed. Yeah, obviously not enough.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's like you can say any quantity of number. The problem is it enough or is it not enough, or what percentage of enough is it? So that the absolute number of cops is really neither here nor there.
Okay, the only thing that
actually take it seriously enough,
the
because
only thing that
again, I'm going to point this out. It wasn't even the fact that they didn't like there weren't enough of them. It was the fact that the response to Black Lives Matters people mostly being peaceful. You can look it up. They were mostly peaceful. The largest majority were peaceful. We're getting shot at with rubber bullets. They didn't even bring out the rubber bullets for these guys, and they went in and smeared shit all over the Capitol walls.
Okay, but do you want me to run from my police line to go retrieve less lethal munitions because this is my point. So the point is fine that they were unprepared for one situation and they were overzealous in another situation. The only thing that I'm trying to point out here, and it's a really simple point, and I just it's food for thought. Okay, if you see cops in gas masks wearing riot gear, rolling up in tanks, and they say, this is an unlawful assembly, please disperse. And those people don't disperse. And then cops start shooting them with rubber bullets and hitting them with tear gas and beating them with batons and tasering them or whatever. You're going to say it's too much. And then if cops get overrun and nearly fucking killed, then you're going to say it's too little. So all I'm trying to point out is, you don't have to sympathize or empathize with this position, and I don't really give a fuck. I'm just saying that as a cop, there's no correct way that a citizen is going to be like, thank you for beating me the exact right amount. It's just not going to happen. So it's a very simple point.
Is this the Goldilocks fallacy? Is that what this is called, actually?
Yeah. Beat my ass the exact right amount.
Just kidding.
It's not going to happen.
No one's even saying that.
I want to get in on a little bit on Connor's side because he's kind of like, I feel like he's getting ganged up in a little bit. But I was not a cop. I almost was, and I support cops. But the thing that sucks about this situation, in regards to the individual cops on the ground, I largely believe I'm right there with Connor. I think this is a failure in the administrative level. But the problem with the situation when you're looking at when it happened, whether the administration for some reason knew it was going to get this bad and underprepared on purpose, if you want to be that kind of conspiracy guy, or whether they didn't expect it to get this bad, if that's what you want to believe, when they're already there, the cops are on the ground at the Capitol and people are getting riley. The problem that you have is, A, deploying all these extra cops with non-lethals takes a lot of time and it's pretty difficult, and you can't just have people leave their line to run back to their car or whatever to get their shit and come back. That doesn't work. And the other thing is, there's the concern that if they try to fight back too hard, it exacerbates the situation. So like the cop he was talking about, Eugene, who was in the stairwell that led all these people away, he did just the right amount. He like swung at a guy and then started running. If he had decided to stand his ground and start swinging or shooting, all those hundreds of people behind him aren't going to turn around and run away. They're probably going to fucking charge his ass and kill him. Like when that woman was shot in that room, I am surprised it didn't rile that crowd up more. And to be honest, the only reason it didn't is because that wall was so barricaded. There was only that tiny window to get through. If it was more open and they shot that woman, I guarantee you that whole fucking crowd is charging in at those Secret Service agents who are in there. So there's a problem of administration fucked up and underprepared them to start with. And then the cops on the ground, what the fuck are they supposed to do about it? Like they were fucked from the start.
Yeah, should they just start mag dumping into the crowd? Like, I mean, on some level, there's a sick part of me
they had to discharge their firearms in that situation. Like they were basically like protecting.
That was Secret Service.
Yeah.
By the way, that was
so they were back in all. They didn't have any choice there. It's not like they could consider like less lethal means.
That needs to be said. So Bad Nick, you just said that I'm surprised they actually shot at this woman. Are you saying that was not the right call?
No, I'm not surprised they shot. I'm surprised the people in the crowd behind her when they got shot didn't try to push forward.
Was it the right call or the wrong call? I mean,
it was absolutely the right call. That woman was the right call. I won't say ill of her, but that was the right call.
I'll defend that shit all day.
You're completely.
One second. We'll get right back to it. Hold on to that. Someone donated $10, saying, "Prime, you need to challenge your guest Connor. As a veteran, some soldiers ought to be better than other soldiers, but I would never expect that any of them would aid any enemy combatants while we're actively under attack." So
I don't know what that means. He's saying shitbag cops helped people out.
Yeah.
I don't know that. That's an assertion that Pisco made. I don't know that to be true.
Well, no, I'm saying that there are currently. It's confirmed that there are investigations into individual Capitol Police officers going on right now, and in particular states also there are investigations into off-duty cops who have been involved in it. So I don't not
So-
making
so
sure
let's- So let's clarify. Let's very specifically clarify this, because whoever said that, I want you to know that I'm taking your comment seriously. Okay, if an off-duty cop stormed the Capitol, then basically they might be thinking that they're upholding their oath, but they're actually violating it. And if they were killed in the attempt, I wouldn't care, because in my eyes, they are violating their oath to the Constitution of the United States. If a cop who was there, so for instance, I think there was like a video of like a cop like waving people to go a certain direction, like he was literally directing rioters like a certain direction or something like that. If they investigated that and they found out that that was nefarious, where the cop wasn't trying to like, you know, cordon people into another police line, he was literally trying to help protesters breach the fucking Capitol, then that dude should literally be thrown under the fucking prison. So I hope that clarifies that I actually agree with what you're saying.
Go ahead, Drew.
Can I ask a question? Oh, after
Drew
Joe.
was waiting.
We finish,
Yeah,
and then we'll go back to you, Dooby.
Yeah, I was just clarifying that Pisco was. I think
Yeah.
he was kind of missing BadNicc's point. I think that they were actually talking past each other. I don't think that. I think Nick was just sort of expressing surprise that there wasn't more issues caused when he shot that woman. I don't think he was saying it was not just.
But the implication there, if what Nick is saying is that in any given situation, you know, take the average situation, in his professional opinion, people would have charged that cop, then really what he's saying is that the cop made the wrong choice, because if they all charged, right, it would have been a worse situation, right?
Well,
Except in his statement, he said that it was probably because there was not really a way for them to get through because it was the window.
So
I mean, like
the way that they took her out, what had happened was there was a window that she broke through. It was at 2 doors with barricades and then a window that she broke through. The window was going through. Had that barricade come down fully, and then they shot someone, I think, while I kind of understand that why they would have shot them, I think it would have been a lot fucking worse. They made the absolute right call. I'm 100% standing behind that agent. But like I was saying, specifically with the guy Eugene who was in that stairwell and led them away, had he gone any harder or tried to make a stand, he'd be fucking dead right now. Like,
okay, so
not a doubt in my mind.
So when people are criticizing the individual cops, I don't think they're criticizing the person who shot. I don't think they're criticizing Eugene, whoever the example. I forget the example. I think they're criticizing the kind of things that that Counterpoints is bringing up, which are like, there are allegations that some on-duty officers were like sending people to certain rooms where the people were, or opening things that they shouldn't have been opening, right? I'm not saying that is true, but there are investigations into that, and there are allegations of that.
The way that goes, the only thing I've seen of that so far was there was a Twitter video that some shitty news agency clipped 6 seconds out of some cops opening up a barricade. The problem is they cut out the following 20 seconds where you can
That's
see
not what
that
I'm
they were
talking
already
about.
on the, yeah.
So
I haven't seen.
What about the cop that was just sitting there going, "Hey, you're not allowed in here. Hey,
Well,
hey, you can't come in."
BadNick will have a response to that.
Walking by, and he's just like,
what more does
hey,
he do?
no,
Does
he shouldn't fight him and die, right?
20ing like a bunch of like armored protesters. Like, some of these dudes are wearing fucking full on like body armor and shit. Like, what is he gonna do? It's one guy versus 20 like crazy MAGAs guys.
Well,
I
if
can't
you
exactly
take the threat
blame him.
seriously in the first place, you
That's
wouldn't
it.
have to worry about it getting to that point.
Which is why I say the administration is the major.
I agree. The organizers, the top level people are
extent.
more to blame. I agree to a certain extent, but like, let's not just pretend that without knowing all the facts yet, that every individual officer is cleared of all charges.
Well,
I agree.
To be
Which
clear,
is why
I
I had the thing pulled up on my screen that showed that 84% of police officers supported Donald Trump in the 2016 election.
That says that says wait.
That's my majority.
Just like it doesn't matter if they supported Donald Trump. It
Yes,
matters
it
that
does.
they were. No, wait, stop.
Because they're coordinated with the people
let me
who
talk.
charged on the.
No, I'm not going to stop talking until you stop. Look, it doesn't matter if they supported Donald Trump. It matters if they were sympathetic to the fucking rioters in that particular instance. Just because they voted for Trump doesn't fucking matter. They were rioters. They don't give a fuck if they were holding Trump flags. That's what is at issue at this point. It's not whether or not they voted for Trump.
Can we address why 84% of cops
They're going to be
voted?
softer with the people that they're more likely to be politically aligned with. Are you fucking kidding me?
That's
Wait,
the
I'm gonna need a citation for. I'm gonna need a citation for that, buddy.
I'll give you some.
Agreed.
There was also reports of a lot of the off-duty cops and military people flashing their badges at them. So you don't think that affected the cops to make them be like, "Oh, that's my buddy, that's my guy." Yeah, it did. We see the results of that. There was no one at Black Lives Matter protests who were doing that, and they got treated like absolute shit.
We
point
see
is,
the results of that.
Can
What the
we
fuck
talk
does
about
that
why
mean?
though?
Terrorism seriously because it's killed more people around this country than Antifa ever will.
Right-wing
Can we
terrorism?
talk about why?
Yeah.
Sure. Like, look, if
Yeah.
right-wing terrorism is more of a threat, I don't particularly like. I fucking hate
But we don't
terrorists.
take it seriously.
Right.
I
That's
take it seriously.
the question is why the different responses, right? Why have
Yeah.
it's undeniable, right, that it was a harsher response in Lafayette Square. Everyone
Sure.
agrees with that.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So the question is why? If one thing is like, well, they knew about the BLM protest, they didn't know about this. That is debunked, right? That cannot be true because everyone and their cat had on their calendar 6th. The attempted coup happens on the 6th. People might have had their eyes closed.
No,
I did. I
I
certainly
think that's
did
a
not.
stretch. Yeah, that's a stretch.
I don't think it's that much of a stretch. So
I don't think that's.
So
no
what are
one's
other
calling it a coup.
Okay. What are other? I was calling it a coup before the 6th.
You
and
were.
I knew it was happening.
Great.
So, the other
Yeah,
so if foreseeability is a neutral ground that we are all rejecting, I don't know if we are. Another neutral ground might be, well, because they're racist or because they have different political affiliations. So you have to explain the difference in the response.
So we got
Can I
Dooby. Dooby's been waiting very patiently. Connor, I see your hand. You don't have to like shake it at me. I get it. But go ahead, Dooby.
I feel like I'm just what I wanted to ask earlier was there are people in here implying that the police were just like held back. They were friendly with these people. They saw them as their buddies, and they recognized them when they saw them. I mean, first off, like 80% of BLM protesters were white. So I don't think the crowd looked all that different. To be honest with you,
They did.
We're
they
just
did.
gonna
No,
go off like
no,
race.
no, just
No,
let's
please,
not make
no,
it
wait,
just about race. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just finish.
You're good.
And secondly, I don't think that there's any evidence that like I think like jumping from hey, they weren't prepared well enough to they weren't prepared well enough because they're racist and they were white people and they just thought there was no like that's a massive fucking leap. And bringing up that 84% of police supported Donald Trump. I mean, we just got through an entire year of defund the police and fuck the police and all these, like, come on, that the Democrat Party was had latched
The
on
Democratic Party, you mean?
No, they
Did you say
didn't.
the
No, they
Democrat?
didn't.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
you're talking about the
they did.
Democratic Party? I thought you said Democrat first. Is it the Democratic
Well, yeah,
Party
I'm sorry,
that you're
the
talking about?
Democratic Party, whatever you'd like to call it. Yeah.
Okay,
no,
but the
Democrat at the end, yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's.
Okay, but the Democrat Party.
I think
police.
making that leap is I think it's too far. I think obviously they're fuck ups, right? I don't think it makes any sense to say now the individual cops on the ground, they're all racist. So they saw these white people and they recognized their faces and whatnot. And I think someone implied earlier that they had riot shields as if the cops were giving them riot shields. No, we saw how they got the riot shields. They beat the shit out of the cops and took them, right?
You saw in one instance how they got those riot shields. That doesn't show you that all the riot shields that were procured were done through those things. So here's the thing. I think that race is a bit of a canard here, because if we're going to focus on it and say it's just about race, then yeah, that's probably not literally true. But it's race combined with culture, right? If there were white people there at the BLM protest, if it was 80% white, I haven't seen those figures, but I'll trust you that that's true. They're probably fucking blue-haired SJWs like me. When a cop sees me versus when a cop sees fucking Joe MAGA, like there's going to be a difference in what he thinks. And like if he thinks, I don't know, this might be one of those Antifa cat girl super soldiers that's gonna come and kick my ass, I better be real careful with this chick.
Well, no, that's so right though. Like, it's not all one thing and all another.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's mixed motive. There's different reasons, and I think race is a reason. I can't prove it with science, but I suspect.
I can prove it with science. I can prove it by showing this article here.
Come on.
Oh my god.
Okay, dude, this doesn't prove that.
You're about to get me. I need to jump in, please. I'll give you all a cookie.
Jangle, go ahead.
All right, I do not have science that says that every single cop there is 100% racist. I don't have that. What I do have is what I think research that points to a nuanced position that doesn't paint all individual cops as horrendous people. Okay, this is what the research that I have. Cops tend to be high in both system justification, which means they want to support the status quo. Kind of makes sense if you're a police officer because you're enforcing laws, and they're also high in social dominance. So basically, they like hierarchies. They like it, people are on the top enforcing laws on people on the bottom. That's not necessarily an evil position on its own. Even I think you can be a decent person and still want some sort of like social hierarchy. All right. So I'm not painting any cops as bad here. So when you see a protest like BLM, which regardless of how many white people comprise it, that is there to challenge the status quo, you are more likely to see them as more of a threat versus someone like MAGA, who is supporting the current president, who is supporting a literal return to when America was great. I don't think it's bad to say that they're supporting the status quo, okay? And this isn't all or nothing. The two options aren't, well, I'm either going to shoot the first person that comes up on the Capitol steps, or I'm going to direct them in with the whatever those flashing lights are, the guiding airplanes in. All right, those aren't the only two positions. It could be as simple as you're just a little bit slower to recognize when the crowd has been boiled up to the point that they're likely to engage in violence. It could be something really small like that. And I think there is a combination of individual cops just making decisions that are a little bit slower based on the crowd that was there, on top of the incompetence of the higher ups. It's not an all or nothing proposition. There probably
that's fair.
there probably were lots of cops there who were absolutely 100% in favor of that MAGA march. They wanted to see them succeed, but they did their jobs. They might have just done a little bit slower than they would have if it was something like a BLM protest or an Antifa protest or whatever. They probably would have acted a lot faster.
I need to back up the lefties here
and do that in one quick second. Hold on, you will be the first person I go back to. Mark, you're heading out. Thank you for being here, Mark. Really appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you, buddy.
Yeah, it's a good time, and I was glad to put some good facts out there. And talk to everybody
next time, man.
and have a good night.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have a
good night, man.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. Go ahead, Connor.
Okay, so basically what I want to do is like Jangles just fucking murdered the fucking point that I was going to make. So this is where I think we don't have to, I can, as the ex-law enforcement officer, I think my instinctive reflexive reaction is going to be defensive. But at the same time, it's true that what is it? So Black Lives Matter is literally saying that the system is racist, whether or not it's interpersonally racist or systemically racist. They're saying that. They're saying that some people for Black Lives Matter are saying that the way to solve this is by chopping up the institution of policing and redirecting funding to other institutions. So isn't it kind of obvious that cops would see people who had that worldview as natural opponents when it comes to physical violence, protests, riots, all that kind of stuff? I don't think I'm making massive logical leaps here.
But then by your own definition, it is racist, right? So because if it derives ultimately from a race-based conflict, then it's racist, right?
No.
Are we talking about systems? Hold on, before you derail me, let me finish the point. Fucking supporting the lefties here too. So if I'm a 30-year-old, cop, veteran, served in the military, now I'm serving as a police officer, and I see Drew with his beard and his stocky shoulders, and he's walking up to me with a Blue Lives Matter flag, or the blue line flag, am I going to count him as a threat? No. If he starts punching me in the face with the flag, am I going to count him as a threat? Yeah. But was I slower to react? Was I less likely to take him seriously as a threat? Yeah, because I do have some level of kinship with him. And then if I see Nocommentchick and 85% of a crowd is white, but they all have blue hair, some of them have black outfits on with masks covering their face, and they're screaming that all cops are bastards, am I going to be more ready to go for a fight? And I think the obvious answer is yes. So I kind of all I want to do is I just want to take down the natural defensiveness, because I think what's going on is conservatives are hearing that conservatives are bad people and they support Donald Trump and they're pieces of shit, and cops are pieces of shit because they were slow to react to this fucking riot. But I don't think we need to go that far. We can just concede this point that if Nocommentchick comes swinging at me and I'm a cop, she's obviously the enemy.
I'm gonna get
if Drew's walking up to me with a blue line flag, he might be my friend.
So I should get a Blue Lives Matter shirt is what you're saying. Okay, I got it.
No, but and I was trying to say the blue line flag, the American flag that's black and white with the blue line.
Right.
Okay, so counterpoints by your own, by exactly what you're saying, right? On the part of the protesters who are in the Capitol Hill protesters, they are engaged in just as incendiary conduct, if not more incendiary, than the Black Lives Matter protesters. More, right?
Yeah.
But you're saying the difference in response comes down to a normative prior about just the general political ideology, right? But that political ideology is informed by an opinion on the racial conflict. And if it's all derived from a norm about some racial conflict in the plausibility of that claim, then it's based inherently on some sort of racist or racism or racial claim. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but are we okay? But here's the thing. Like, I have no problems with systemically racist arguments or whatever. I have no problems with saying that like the system disproportionately fucks over Black or brown people. I have no problems with saying that we set these systems up and there's basically like historical context that feeds into these systems. I'm also okay with the assertion that basically like these systems can perpetuate forever and still be like systemically racist while maybe not interpersonally racist.
Yeah, so I think we all acknowledge that it's not.
Okay,
yes.
so are you saying interpersonal, or are you saying systemic? Or are you saying a blend?
I think that line that you just drew between those two is really arbitrary. I don't see a big kind of difference or one that's worth mentioning. It's a distinction to me without a difference. I think there's
a huge difference because for instance, I see Drew and I see Drew getting riled up, and I think probably a few years ago I would have gotten riled up. If you would have walked up to me and called me a fucking racist, what you're doing is you're calling me a bad person. And I'll say, no, I'm not a racist. I have a friend. His name's PrimeCayes. He invites me on his panel show sometimes, and we're boys. And if he invited me out for a beer, regardless of his sexuality or whether or not he was cisgender or whatever his race was, I would happily go get a beer with my friend PrimeCayes.
Here's what I'll say.
I'm not interpersonally racist.
Okay, so it's relevant insofar as people think it's relevant, and insofar as people internalize the accusation differently. Perhaps it's different as society deems it differently. But at bottom, if it's racist,
I'm racist.
Right. So I see where you're going with that, and I accept it. But all I'm trying to say is saying that it is racist and racism that's driving it could be completed by either an interpersonally racist police body or a police body that you acknowledge has some sort of prior on a racial conflict that we would consider racist.
Well, let me bring up this question, and then I swear I'll shut up and stop dominating the conversation. Okay, so let's put terrorist attacks aside, because almost every there's very few conservatives or right-wing people who are going to support right-wing terrorism. Okay, very few in the United States. Okay, so let's put right-wing terrorism aside. When was except for who?
Sorry. Never mind. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's parse out right-wing terrorism. When was the last conservative riot?
Just now.
Right.
There was one trick question. I'm serious. This is a trick question. What the fuck are we doing here?
No, I'm asking.
They were storming state capitals in Kansas.
He's got your answer right there.
No, I'm literally asking.
Are you trying to turn the Rick and hit yourself in the face? What's going on here? I don't understand.
Okay, no comment check. Let me clarify. Let me clarify.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me clarify.
Okay,
Jesus Christ.
Sorry. I just didn't understand.
Okay, yeah, so can I clarify? So besides the storming of the Capitol, when was the last right-wing riot?
We don't count this big, really dangerous, possibly democracy ending thing. We don't count this one. I get it. I see how it is.
I have a point.
Yeah. So in Kansas, right? They recently, I think maybe even the same day, they stormed the Capitol building of Kansas, I believe.
Hey, what about every single police riot that went on this summer? How about that? Are we going to always blame the BLM protesters for that? Or the police have some culpability for fucking shooting goddamn shit at people's faces when it's supposed to go on the ground and bounce up and hit you in the knee and just like injure your knee, right? Do they have no culpability in this? Is there never
I didn't
that's disingenuous.
To be upsetting. I was actually
Connor
Dooby, do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, I mean, you asked when the last right-wing riot was, right? The police shooting rioters, BLM rioters, or Antifa rioters isn't really a good answer to that, right? I don't think
I gave a good answer, right? In Kansas.
No, not really. No, not really. I don't think we can.
Why not?
I can tell you in a second. I don't think we can classify the police responding to rioters as like a right-wing riot. Right, that's not really fair. I think what Connor's getting at is like I mentioned earlier, we've just gotten through an entire year of protests and riots from BLM, and I even hesitate to call them like BLM, right? Because realistically, these are like I think primarily like Antifa types that go out there and cause trouble, right? Yeah, Antifa
As
types.
opposed
We'll
to
go out there and call it
as opposed to fa types.
Please.
Is that what we're
Oh
talking
my
about?
God.
As opposed to fa
Wait, but
types? Antifa. Okay,
Wait,
so
let him- just let him
anti-fascist.
talk.
I like that.
Let's say the
Please.
full word.
So
Anti-fascist. Can we
please.
say?
Oh
Can
my
we
God.
try to say
So
it?
it makes
Anti-fascist.
so it makes sense.
We'll pronounce
So
it
it
one
makes sense.
syllable at a time.
So makes
Anti-fascist. Can you
sense.
say that?
That's
Just
fine.
let him talk.
And
I just wanna hear
anti-fascist
you say the
fascists
word
went out
one
there
more
and beat
time.
people up for disagreeing with
Say
me.
the full word. Say the full word.
Hey, whoa, stop. Thank you. Let him answer, please. Go ahead, Dooby.
Okay, so I think what Connor's getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, we just had an entire year of protests and riots from a certain side of the political spectrum. So it makes sense that when those people went to the Capitol, they would have expected riots, maybe had a larger presence there. And what do you know? That protest went into the night. It did turn into a riot, and they burned shit down. They pulled down the statue. They did all kinds of crazy shit, right? So yeah, I think it's fair to say that the police were expecting violence when the BLM protests happened. Not because BLM is the organization, but because I think there are a lot of like anti-fascist types who got there and caused trouble.
This is an incorrect frame of looking at this, Dooby. Because one is you're wrong on the premise that the right-wing insurgents or militia groups don't do riots. They do them with some regularity. I've given you a couple of examples that you can't
know
just
that
brush off.
happened the same day.
Well, there's also been storming of the Capitol in Michigan.
There's over 500 BLM protesters and riots in the
Okay,
last year.
this is the other problem: is you assume that the numerosity of riots is the relevant factor we should look at. Numerosity isn't the problem. Magnitude and scope of danger and threat. That's the problem.
Malignancy is what we're talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Christ, I literally wasn't trying to trigger you with this question. I was literally pitting your point. I was literally supporting your point.
I'm talking to Dooby about his, I think, framing. I think he's taken your point and gone somewhere else with it, if that's fair.
Okay, instead of asking a question, can I just articulate my point?
Go.
Okay, so I'm going to articulate my point. Okay, so rather than asking a question, here's what I was driving at. So you had the Michigan protest or riot or storming of the Capitol or whatever with people with firearms. I think a few months ago, you also had like some militia members show up to some Capitol, basically to protest with firearms and all that kind of stuff. People weren't killed. There weren't Molotov cocktails thrown. They didn't break the fucking windows. They literally showed up with fucking guns and they left. Okay.
Charlottesville.
So 2016. So literally the last time.
Why would that matter? If you have a history, so we forget about terrorist acts 4 years after they happen, or sorry, riots?
Are you being purposely obtuse, or are you waiting?
Yes. I feel
Okay.
Turn that question around, Connor.
No,
Jesus Christ. You
I'm
don't
trying to get to the
tripping over your dick like that. Jesus Christ, dude.
Okay.
I'm not trying to embarrass you. I swear to God, dude. I swear to God.
I swear to God, no comment check. I am not trying to upset you. I'm literally trying to articulate a point.
I'm passionate. There's a difference.
How about the attempt to get Governor Whitmer? You're saying that.
Oh my God. Okay, can I just talk about perception then? Jesus Christ! Like seriously, I don't. Okay, no comment check. I understand that passion does not mean you are incorrect. Okay, so that's something that I get yelled at for all the time. I get very passionate, but I don't feel like I'm incorrect at all. Pisco and no comment check. I'll take your fucking 6 goddamn examples about right-wing people being fucking assholes, and I'll concede that they existed. But can we talk about perception, okay? The perception is that boring, conservative, middle-class fucking white people, they show up, they're fat. Though? Oh my, don't yell at me.
I'm sorry, I'm bad. Go ahead, I'll shut up.
I'll shut up. Comment. I'm going to mute, please.
You're fine.
I'm trying to explain perception, not reality, okay? The perception is that the guy with his fucking fanny pack in the American flag shirt is not a threat, okay? I'm not saying he's not actually a threat. I'm just saying that the perception is that he's not.
Can I respond? So I hear you.
Not yet. Let him finish.
He just said yes.
Okay. So literally my point is that I'm reinforcing your point that most conservatives don't conceptualize a threat from the right wing, and that might have played into the way that the Capitol unfolded. I literally reinforced your point.
I don't think you did.
Why not?
Because I don't agree that the perception is as you say. I think that law enforcement officers and agencies in this country, both federal and otherwise, have identified right-wing activity and militias and these kinds of groups as a humongous threat. So I don't agree that the FBI is a bastion of liberal or left wing politics. And if they are representative of federal law enforcement, I think you're wrong. The perception isn't what you.
Can I speak to this?
You guys have, yeah.
Sorry, no. If you want to go.
I want to point something out because you guys have been going on this for a while. I think a fair way to conceptualize the idea of like the difference in threat from the left to the right. Right wing leaning like terror attacks or riots, whatever you want to be, tend to be rarer, but tend to be more dangerous and tend to be more targeted. So like the right wingers that tried to fucking kidnap that governor or whatever the fuck, compared to generally pretty, you know, BLM protests or Antifa riots, whatever the fuck you want to call them, tend to be a little bit less focused and a little bit less planned and well articulated. They tend to be, they start as a protest, shit goes crazy, people start rioting. Right wingers do it more rarely, but it tends to be a lot fucking more direct and like scary, I think.
I don't agree with that characterization. I'm sorry. I don't agree that.
Why?
So
That's a bad thing.
No, because
I'm a left.
I understand it.
Pisco, you've talked for so much. I'm sorry, dude. I was gonna fully agree, like that. Yeah.
No, you assholes are fucking. Like, oh no, is that Jangles? I don't know. I don't want to interrupt Jangles, but fuck this bullshit. Honestly, Prime, I'm pretty fucking pissed that I got shut down like that. I got something to say here, and if I don't get to say it, I'm out of here, and I'm never coming back to any of your fucking panels again. Fuck you.
The way to get conservatives out into the street is when they perceive a change to be happening that they're fearful of. That's how to get conservatives out in the street to do rioting. All right. I don't think this is a bad thing. This is not an indictment of the left. All right. It's okay. We should be the ones out protesting more. And just statistically, when you get a shit ton of people out in the streets, more of those protests are going to turn into riots. That is perfectly fine. That doesn't make the causes bad. That doesn't make anything bad. This is not a bad thing that is happening, and it should happen. If you are a progressive, if you want change, if you want the status quo to change, you should want the left to be out there protesting way more. All right, that's all he's saying. The thing is, when you are defending the status quo, yeah, what BadNick said just now is going to be a lot more targeted, and it has a lot more potential to be lethal and violent because it's more targeted, it's more motivated. I think that's perfectly fine what Nick said.
So I just want
no comment, Chick.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, Connor, you said that this is true in the perception. You said the perception of people. Guess what? People, that's the perception of white, male, straight, fucking people. In the perception of a certain limited group, in a perception of, let's just say a culture. Let's not essentialize and make it, because it's not all white, straight men, but in the group of cops, in the group of people who think a certain way, yeah, I'm a lot more dangerous than Uncle MAGA with his fucking IEDs in his fanny pack that you're not checking because you think it's just a fanny pack with this diabetes medication in it. So I'm sorry, I got a little passionate there, but like seriously, like this is not, don't say perception, like our perception is fucking universal. Don't fucking erase my perception from the equation of like what you're, considering there. I think you have a very limited view and like it shows, it fucking shows. That's why you're tripping over your dick and like, just, I'm gonna calm down. I'm gonna mute myself, okay? You guys go on.
I can disagree with Connor in everything he said, because when I say that.
Oh my god, holy shit, chat. I actually did get a little bit like, right, then I gotta calm down. Let me put my Waluigi up here, and oh my god, he's falling over. I'm like shaking, I had so much coffee, chat. Oh my god, seriously, I hate that shit though. Like perception and the people's perception, you're just like taking over everyone's perception and be like, oh, this is people's perception. What I think is people's perception. Go fuck yourself with that No, I understand why people react the way they do to Connor now. I totally get it now. All right. Did I not start out this panel really calm and really nice? I think I did.
To fucking people in churches. It's not a threat to the cops. The cops are wearing fucking body armor. They're rolling into the call after the shooting has already occurred. So if I look at fucking Jim Bob, the fucking dude with his fucking fanny pack and a concealed weapons permit, I don't see a threat because he's protecting the status quo. I literally don't know where we disagree, and I have no idea how the fuck I'm making you mad. Whereas
I just feel like my perceptions are getting walked over, right? When you said people's perceptions, right? But you're talking about a certain group of people's perceptions, and you
sure. When did I ever say it was universal? I never said it was universal. I was talking about law enforcement perception.
You didn't like say, okay, in the sense of the cops, their perception. But you said people's perception. You said people's. And that's what
so if I modify it, hold on, guys, Jesus Christ, it's literally a conversation between me and her right now, okay? So if I modify my language to say law enforcement's perception and conservative America's perception.
That helps
Do
a lot.
we agree?
Yeah, I think we
Do
agree.
we agree?
With that.
I don't agree with
Wait,
that.
do I not? Maybe I
I
missed
do
something.
not agree with that.
Why?
I don't agree that law enforcement, just you saying so doesn't make it so.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
agree that law enforcement's
Prove it
perspective.
wrong.
Good point,
Prove it
guys.
wrong.
No comment check and
It was literally a linchpin argument of the beginning of the conversation for the storming of the Capitol. You're shooting your own point in the foot.
No, I'm not.
What are you doing?
I'm not.
Please,
Take the W.
Please.
Fuck.
Pisco and no comment check. Did either of you disagree with what I said and the way I framed things when I was bringing up the research about how
I disagreed.
You disagreed? Okay, tell me how, because you said there was no
Okay.
research. I have.
No. I disagreed with your, first of all, your notion that I am making a normative statement about how many or having a lot of protests is bad. I didn't make a normative assessment about the number of protests being good or bad. Second, you're conflating a couple things. One is you're conflating protests and riots and how dangerous certain groups are. I don't think that the left should have more riots. Right? So do we agree on that? I don't think that the left should have more assassination attempts or more storming of the Capitol's events. And also, I think you're wrong on the numerosity question. How do you categorize the BLM protests? Is it all one big protest? Are there many little protests? So I would not give ground or presume some kind of numerosity to the number of protests or riot events. I don't concede that the left does more of these, and I don't concede that we should be equally worried about both of them. And I don't agree that the perception of law enforcement to their own selves is that the left is more dangerous to them. I don't agree with that.
You're just wrong on that last one.
What?
You're
What?
just wrong. There's research to support that.
What research?
But Pisco, wasn't that your argument at the start? And I think Nocommentchick too, right? Wasn't part of your argument for why they weren't prepared well enough? It's that they saw this group of protesters and they saw people that looked like them, people that thought like them. So it just seems like you're now arguing against your own.
It wasn't.
This is what pisses me off, because that's what I said. I had research.
That wasn't my argument.
The reason that the entire topic here is, why did the Capitol police officers, why did the DC police officers, why did they treat BLM different than they treated the people storming the Capitol building? The reason I gave, and I've researched to support this, is I think it's reasonable to think that the cops tend to be more higher in system justification and social dominance. All right, they tend to be higher in that, and so they probably saw BLM as more of a threat than they saw the MAGA people who were upholding the status quo. All right, I'm not putting a normative statement on either of those. I'm trying to give it a descriptive statement. I'm agreeing. That was in the entire. That's our side.
I don't disagree with you.
Officers treated. You disagree that Capitol police officers are treating the like.
I know. I agree
with Connor.
Maybe it's Corona burning out my brain right now, right? But I'm pretty sure that was like one of the reasons you gave for why these were treated differently.
No, I wasn't. So I know what I said, and I know what my arguments are, and I understand that they're being treated differently. I don't think, and I don't have any evidence to support that is because cops genuinely feared BLM more than they genuinely feared the right wing.
Because that was the thing that you brought up. It's just because they're racist. No, that's what Pisco said.
The argument, sorry, to be clear, the argument that Counterpoints is suggesting is perhaps because cops genuinely feared for these Lafayette Square people, that was the reason that they treated them with a harsher hand.
You're adding in a word that has nothing to do with this. Okay,
What?
You said genuinely feared. Okay, so let's narrow down the spectrum of violence. I will articulate this to you, and if you don't interrupt me, I'll give you a whole idea. I'll give you a whole idea, okay? So if I'm worried about getting killed, right? If I'm worried about getting killed, I'm worried about an anti-government sovereign citizen militia member who has an AR-15 in his fucking house or in his truck, and he has a fucking unregistered machine gun at his house. And if I pull him over, he's going to execute me because he literally doesn't believe in traffic laws, okay? So if I'm thinking about mortal threat, okay? The second part of it, dude, do you want information or not? I'm not going to give it to you. I'm not even going to give it to you. No,
I understand what you're going to say.
You just want my dick tip, and I want to give you the whole thing, and you don't even want it.
It's so obvious. It so obviously doesn't explain Lafayette Square, because in Lafayette Square, your argument would have to be
part of the point. Do you want to wait for it, or do you just want to argue against half a point?
Okay, finish it. I know what you're going to say. Even though it's not a legitimate fear.
Let him finish. Please, Connor, finish your point quickly. We're going to move on to. Go ahead.
if I'm in fear of my life, then I'm more afraid of a fucking militia member. But they're statistically infinitely more rare for a cop to encounter. So then, if I'm actually talking about getting my head caved in by a fucking cinder block or somebody throwing a fucking Molotov cocktail at me, which while not deadly is still a concern for my health and well-being, what are the chances that it's going to be from the left? Infinitely more so? Infinitely more so. And if you disagree with that, I don't even know what fucking reality we live in. It's
That's
insane.
a good question. What reality you're living in, honestly? Because like that sounds fucking unhinged as fuck, dude. Like to think that like left-wing terrorism poses more of a threat at this point than right-wing terrorism after what we just saw. And like, granted, the conversation was like, first of all, let's eliminate the thing that happened just now. Other than that, what has the right ever done? Other than this, what has the right ever done?
So
can I please respond to what Counterpoint said? Because it's laughable. It's laughable.
Fine, respond.
Okay, so you can say all you want as much time as you want that I thought we weren't going into the statistics of what's actually true, and you were just referencing the perception. If that's the case, then why reference statistics about what's more likely and what's not more likely? All that matters is the perception. So I don't want to hear statistics.
How many cops are killed every year?
Okay, let me finish my point, please. Number two is anything you have to say about the perception of actual danger does not apply to the case studies we're using. Lafayette Square.
It is literally the only thing that matters.
No, it doesn't.
Perception that
Stop.
It's literally the only thing that
doesn't.
matters in this case.
Your model. Excuse me. Your model does not apply to Lafayette Square because no one on this call can tell me that any of the cops in that situation feared for their life in Lafayette Square. So your model fails to explain the difference between Lafayette Square and what happened in the Capitol building. Can you guys explain that? How does your model fear?
Yeah,
all right.
Pisco,
you've talked way too much in here. I need to
Okay.
ask it. I'm sorry. Did you speak up? Someone else?
It doesn't explain Lafayette.
My screen. It does. I can explain this to you. All right. I think you would agree with me if you calm down for a second. My entire opening statement, my thesis, if you will, is that the cops treated the BLM protests and the Capitol insurrection. They treated those differently. All right. That's
agreed.
On your side. Okay. Agreed. Awesome. The question is why. I have research to say that cops tend to be high in they want to enforce the status quo and they want to dominate. All right.
Sure.
All right? Okay, cool.
That's different than fear, right?
I'm not done. You're gonna be
No, but we have to stop. We have to stop. We have to do every point by point.
Shut up, because you do not know what you're saying, all right? I swear to God, we're on the same side. I would hate to have you argue this because you would make us look so bad, okay?
No,
right.
you're...
We agree on those points, okay? We agree, all right?
No, we don't agree because we're conflating.
Shut the fuck up. They treated BLM and the insurrection.
Yeah, we agree on that.
All right,
yep.
We agreed on that. Okay, and cops tend to be high in enforcing the status quo, and they tend to be high.
Stop there. Right?
Shut the fuck up. I'm right.
It's not the same. That's not the same. No, I'm not arguing your facts. I'm not arguing your truth. I'm saying that is not the same as fear for your life.
Is that what I said? Is that what I argued?
Okay, but that's what Connor is arguing. Okay? So your evidence doesn't go to Connor's point.
You either fear for your life or nothing can change in your behavior.
No, but that's Connor's point. Your evidence doesn't go to Connor's point, right? If it's not the same dependent variable, you're not offering evidence for Connor's point. Because Connor's point is about fear for life.
Okay, fuck Connor for a second. All right, I'm asking you. You seem to disagree with me when I was talking earlier, okay?
About maybe something else.
I got to that point. And so it's when you're a cop, you are going to perceive BLM, since they are challenging the status quo, with less charitability than you would perceive MAGA. That's it. All right? Cops' perception is literally the only thing that matters here. All right?
How is it the only thing?
But perception of fear. What Connor's saying is perception of fear, not just general perception. I agree that attitudes and opinions... But we don't know that.
I'm saying that there's a reason.
No, I'm not talking about the validness of the validity or not either. What we're talking about is whether, in fact, cops feared more for the Lafayette protesters than they feared more in the Capitol Hill case. And I think that anyone who pretends that the cops feared more of the Lafayette Square protesters doesn't have a clue of what's going on. That's not the model that explains the difference here. Maybe it's some other perception, right? What about what I'm saying is controversial.
let me jump in here because you guys are talking a fuck ton. I want to give a side point to Connor here, in that I partially agree with him, but I also think the idea of fear for their lives isn't necessarily the only thing that matters. It's also fear for their fucking jobs, okay? When the people on the left are all talking about defunding cops, it's not just fear for their lives, it's fear for their fucking jobs, their livelihood. If the left, quote unquote, wins or whatever, cops might feel like their fucking job is going down the tubes because this defund the police bullshit. So it goes beyond just, oh, I'm kind of scared for my life. It's, I'm scared for my fucking livelihood.
That's different than what Connor said.
How
That would be.
How did nobody
Oh
pick
my
up that?
god.
That's different than what Connor said. You guys
asked.
No, but like you're defending a point that Connor said that perhaps the difference was because cops feared more for the left protesters, feared from them. Not he's meaning fear for their physical safety. He mentioned it.
How do you know
No,
what he means?
Because he said maybe not mortal peril, but also physical bodily autonomy. He's not talking about political fear.
Can I address this point, or are we just going to talk about what I fucking said over and over again without me actually saying it?
Here's what we go. Dooby, who's dying ever so slowly, faster than normal, needs to head out. Dooby, thank you for joining us. Tell the world a little about yourself, where they can find you.
You can find me on the Politics Discord server, discord.gg/politics. Pisco's wrong about everything. I agree with Connor for once. I think it's the first time ever. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Dooby will now go off to crawl into the cracks of our subconsciousness where our night terrors live.
Nice.
But thank you for joining us. Crawl out some other time. We'd love to have you.
Okay. See you guys later.
Bye.
Peace.
See you, buddy.
Okay.
Stay safe. Get better.
So.
Okay.
Right,
so
I'm going to give you guys a choice, right? Because I've let this go way over time. But
please.
Do you want to continue yelling at each other about this, right, or move on to our third topic about impeachment? This is your choice.
I would appreciate a closing statement for anyone who wants to just put a code on it.
Let's
let chat vote.
Okay.
Can we have a vote in chat? What does chat think?
I don't want to be here all night. Okay, chat's cool and all, but like
chat's gonna take too long. I get it. Democracy's too difficult. I get it.
Make quick. So we have time for the last. I'm doing this to respect your time. I want to respect all of your seconds. So go ahead. We'll go with Nocommentchick. You can go first.
Like, if I want to talk about this more, or like give a closing statement, or what? Sorry, closing statement. Okay, yeah, like my whole thing is like, I mean, this is a huge thing. And Connor, I really wasn't trying to take the piss on you tonight. I'm sorry if I got passionate, and if it sounded like I don't like you, I do. You're fine. I don't dislike you. Talking to you is actually like really useful, and I like that you're like a kind of gateway in between the right and the left. That's actually really cool, and you're different than most people that I talk to most of the time. But I think that the point remains that when we say like perspective, it's so easy to say that without thinking, and then we end up adopting like a certain perspective as the perspective, especially if that's the perspective that's like empowered, especially if that's the perspective of the establishment, especially if that's the perspective of like a force of physical strength, like the police are. That's kind of all I was saying is that, like, just remember that your perspective is not the only one, and in this case that was a dog shit perspective, because the people who had their eye on Parler had it right this time. And please, for fuck's sake, I mean, I don't know if you're still connected to people in law enforcement, but that needs to change. They need to get their heads out of their asses and start looking at the real terrorist threat, if they are indeed like officers of the peace and not just like a force of tough guys, not just another fucking gang, because that's what a lot of us out here, especially marginalized people, are afraid of. Anyway, that sounded like I was angry. I wasn't. I respect everybody on the panel. That's all.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if I have a whole lot of comments about what just ensued for the past 30 minutes. My only point on this was that I'm not sure if we can draw say that the reason there was a disproportionate response was because of the race of the people involved. I think that the Capitol Police fucked up. I wish that there was a better response. It was clearly an attempt to fuck up our government. I'm not cool with that. Screw those people. I'm happy we're moving on.
Okay, Jangles.
I thought I made what was a very reasonable, data-driven, descriptive explanation of why the responses of the Capitol Hill insurrection and the BLM protest back in like June, why they were different. The reason I gave, and I'm just reiterating my opening statement here because it was never really challenged, is that police officers tend to be more justify the system more, to endorse the status quo more, as well as endorse hierarchies a little bit more. Okay, and that's the reason they saw BLM as threatening the social status quo, and they saw the MAGA people threatening the status quo. That's it. I think I have no, obviously we have no data on these exact instances, but for overall trends, I think that's a reasonable inference about the difference between the two. So I'll stand by that.
Sorry, I'm blanking. Nick.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is at the end here, it got really fucking dumb, and everyone was screaming past each other about shit nobody actually ever said. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's hard to come to the idea that like BLM or Antifa or like the left as a general rule are probably more of a threat to police in the eyes of the police. Like that, I if you disagree with that, I just don't understand how. This whole situation with Capitol Hill is very clearly an administrative fuck up. There were probably some cops on the ground who did some bad shit, but like, it just goes to show that I think this was a really big wake-up call, and I do think the right will be taken more seriously as a threat in the future. But I also want to kind of give to the opposite side of the coin. I want to say how fucking impressed I am by the cops, because even though they were overrun, even though they got into the building, even though so few people died, all of our fucking elected officials were safe. Nothing really that bad happened. There wasn't a ton of damage. Like, honestly, I'm fucking impressed that it went this well with how terribly everything was stacked in the favor of the protesters. So that's me just trying to be the enlightened centrist.
Okay, all right. Last time on the panel. Thanks for going out in a blaze of glory. Go ahead, Connor.
Do you mind if I go after Pisco?
Okay. Okay, sure. But both of you, keep it quick so we can get to this final topic. Pisco.
Okay. To address the point from Jangles, I think that your research or whatever study that you're pointing to is totally valuable as evidence in this discussion. That said, it's not dispositive evidence, right? The police officers here aren't the ones who are largely in control of the response. Part of that response is in the hands of Donald Trump. So whatever you have to say about the tendencies and emotions and perspectives of cops might be totally inapposite or not relevant if the decision's out of their hands. That's one point. So while I do think it's worthwhile, I don't think it's dispositive. I don't accept at face value BadNick and Counterpoints contention that perception of fear, like the fear perception, explains this difference at face value. Perhaps it explains some of the difference in some circumstances, but all I was saying, it's clearly not a model that can be applied to all these situations, because in the two case studies we were looking at, the difference between Lafayette Square and the Capitol Hill protest, in Lafayette Square, I don't think any reasonable observer can possibly say that the cops in those instances feared for their life more than the case of the Capitol Hill protest. That's it, right? So those two case studies, the model of perception of fear fails, at least with respect to the micro level. And you could argue, probably, what I would say is, in the Lafayette Square, someone ordered them to go and clear the response and to do it violently. And so whatever the perceptions were of the cops is totally irrelevant. It's because they're just following orders, and they'll hew to that more than they will to their own, they'll follow orders, right? So that is all I was saying. And so that's why I think it's presumptuous for Counterpoints or anyone else to say that they have the answer on what the difference is, and that answer is the individual perceptions and fears and political dispositions of the individual cops. That's not dispositive evidence, and it clearly isn't a model that applies perfectly to the case studies we were challenging. What is wrong with that, chat? What is wrong with that?
Connor.
All right, so Nocommentchick, I actually appreciate your passion. Generally speaking, I am the person who is getting very passionate to the point of like basically just yelling at people. So I actually sincerely appreciate it. So don't ever think that I am offended by passion. I'm actually very receptive to it. And you're right that I just assumed that my default cis het white male perspective is the perspective. But you know, we're still 30% of the population and relatively socially powerful. So if you would forgive me for my semantic flub, what I was trying to say is that conservatives and law enforcement specifically fear the left more than they fear the right. So while terrorism might be a more real threat that kills more people on a year-to-year basis, what people preoccupy themselves with, and you can see this in the propaganda that right-wing people and cops consume, they are more afraid of the left than they are of the right. So I think it's actually kind of funny, and I'm not trying to be a smartass, but I think it's funny that I tried to agree with lefties and still got attacked. And I just want to say that like this is kind of why the left's like can't do anything, because I'm trying to help you and give you information and I'm still getting fucking shit on. So it's kind of interesting doing that. And then hold on, I'm almost done, I promise. And then finally, Pisco, I don't ever think that I made any kind of counter to the narrative that the fuck up was administrative and that the consideration by law enforcement not to address the right-wing protests the same way that they addressed Black Lives Matter was made at an administrative level. I don't think I've made any comment that brought that down. But you're largely making a semantic argument about fear. I can fear more things than just mortality. If I'm at a riot, I can be afraid that my line's going to break. I could be afraid that my skull's going to get crushed in by a fucking, by a cinder block. I could be afraid that it's going to get hit by a fucking Molotov cocktail. And if I deal with 6 months worth of protests and riots from BLM, and then I hear that a conservative protest is going to be rolling through town, I think it's logical and based in the cis-het white male conservative perspective that conservatives are less of a threat than Antifa based on perception alone. Now, we can get into the spectrums of violence. We can get into how violence is perpetrated. We can talk about who it's perpetrated to. We can talk about reality. We can talk about the FBI and all that kind of shit. And I am very interested in having that conversation. If you want to have that conversation, I am more than happy to do it. But you largely made a semantic argument that I think is completely incorrect. And with that, I will shut the fuck up and happily move on to topic 3.
I'd be glad if you and your buddies could just widen your perspective a little bit. That's all.
Everyone, yeah, great. So we're gonna move on. A quick side note to you, Connor. A chatter here in my channel desperately wants a piece of you. Samantha Banana has been calling you out constantly. She wants you in the open walk-on panel that'll be happening afterwards. If you have a few moments to be yelled at, because that's exactly what's going to happen.
If we end at 11:30, I'll stay till midnight.
Okay, all right. So we'll move on. But just before we do that, hey, everybody, please give me a follow. We have a lot more viewers than we usually do. We're having 242. Holy crap. We got 242, no raids. This is amazing.
You're welcome. You're welcome anytime, Prime. Anytime.
Okay, sure. Thank you. No, thank you. Seriously, everyone, for all the support. This is a lot more than we usually do. And so since all of you are hanging around here, final topic. And if you want to address something that happened previously, you can during your opening statement, but then that's it. Come on, we got to move on. If I can, oh my God, I can't type. All right, hold on. It is, as soon as I can pull it up, holy shit. Final topic is
Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats have threatened to impeach Trump if he does not resign following the Capitol riots. Is this worth doing, considering Trump has less than 2 weeks in office? Is there a certain principle of decency that must be upheld through initiating the impeachment process? Would this move help to heal the country or grow its divisions? Or is this just a political ploy on the part of the opposing party? Will an impeachment process be a distraction to more important priorities that the country needs addressed?
That's why I call him my right-hand man. All right, so you heard it.
Can I be your right-hand girl for this, to start this off, just because to respond to something from Connor real quick, and then lead into this? Okay, so I just wanted to say to my white, straight, cis, male comrades out there, I fucking love you. I do everything I can not to essentialize you, and I know that you're not all like Connor or like anything. I know that you're all individuals, and I appreciate the fuck out of you, and this is not about turning you into, as I said with Destiny, the Dio Brando of oppression, because I know you're not the Dio Brando of oppression. But as far as impeaching the president, I think it's a fucking Chad move. It's about time. The real question is, like, what do you impeach the president on? Because there's actually like a number of different routes you could go. I guess I haven't taken a look to see which one Pelosi's looking for, but I think it's a base decision. I think that if anything's gonna heal the country, I don't know, it's not going to be like equivocating and like trying to like throw out a bone to the terrorist right-wing like dark heart id of America. It's going to be taking a stand and telling the truth for once, instead of trying to be like the media and call it, oh, I guess both sides kind of have a point here. No, enough of that shit. That is fucking beta bullshit, and we're done with it. Okay, that's all.
Okay, Nick.
Hey, buddy. So as far as this goes, I think, yes, absolutely impeach him again. Anybody who disagrees with it on the grounds of, oh, there's only 2 weeks left is dumb and wrong, because the entire point of impeaching him again is because it gives Congress the ability to bar him from running again in 2024. Not that he can, he's old as fuck. But it also allows them to possibly remove him from office early, which is, yes, it's only 2 weeks, but it's symbolic. It's symbolic and it's precedential. We want to set a precedent that a president cannot fucking do this and get away with it. The other thing is, if you remove him from office early, it prevents him from like last minute pardoning a bunch of these fucking idiots. It prevents him from trying to pull some shit where he resigns and tries to get Pence to pardon him. Not that Pence would, but he could try it. It's just you can't convince me that it's the wrong move to impeach him. I don't think it would help heal the country or grow its divisions. I don't think it would do anything. I think everybody who's on the side that they're on would stay regardless of what happens. I doubt anything changes there. It's probably not a political ploy, because a ploy would imply that it's somehow not like justified, but it absolutely fucking is. Get him out of there. And the impeachment process being a distraction to, like, it's not, though. It just isn't a distraction. The votes take a day each in each of their fucking things. It's not a distraction from anything. Like, that's dumb. Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Jangles.
Yeah, to the argument, oh, there's only 2 weeks left. If I was at my job and I had like 2 weeks left of my contract and I decided to come into the cafeteria of where I work to just take a big shit on the table, I think it would be very justifiable, even though I only have 2 weeks left of my contract, to go ahead and fire me, because, you know, that's against the rules, and how much longer I have left at the company has no bearing on whether or not the rules have been broken. I think yeah, there are the things of, like, you know, what if he tries to pardon a bunch of extra people, or what if he tries to bestow more medals of honor on like sports people, both of which are equally terrible. But it's also about sending a message that he is going to go out of office with his tail between his legs. He tried to start a little insurrection. He got incredibly embarrassed. Now he's going with his tail between his legs. Like, no, never mind. I guess, you know, I didn't find any voter fraud, and, you know, 60 of my lawsuits were thrown out, and I'm going to say that, yeah, I do agree with the peaceful, you know, transfer of power, but I want to pout about it, and I've been banned from everything, including my bank, by the way. His bank dropped him like a couple of minutes before this panel started, and to just to cap that off with oh, actually, we're just going to go ahead and kick you out, you're not even going to finish. I think it sends the best message it can. You're not going to make MAGA go away, but you are going to make it look like a fucking joke in the eyes of most people, and that's the best you can do with
little dudes come up,
like
and like I just naturally like little dudes.
Yeah, so to start off my opening statement, I would like to say I got a little heated earlier, and I apologize for that. I'm going to try to rein it back in, be my normal calm self.
No, do the opposite of that. That's better for content.
I'm sorry. I'm a calm person. I'm just very tired, so I'm going to try to rein it back in. In terms of impeachment, I think that spreading misinformation and inciting a riot are clearly grounds for impeachment. I think that the right needs to start standing for decency and like actual values. Attacking institutions is not conservative. We need to separate ourselves from Trump. Frankly, the left was vindicated in its view that Trump's rhetoric was dangerous, and the people on the right who are over and over defending him have to just eat that and get rid of him. Like, I mean, the truth is that everything the left had been telling us, like, I mean, like, look, there's been a lot of people on the right that have extended charity to Trump. And I think the truth was that charity, I think we've seen reason that we don't need to extend that charity anymore. A very serious point of our government was attacked. As far as I'm concerned, there's no argument left anymore. The left was right about this. Get him out. That's my position on it.
Connor.
Yep. I think Nick and Drew said it beautifully. I think we should be fucking done. The only way that I wouldn't want impeachment or criminal prosecution to proceed, Pisco can talk to us about the legality of this. But basically would be like if he were to sign like a non-disclosure agreement, if he was to sign a contract saying I'm not going to run again, if he was to almost like a plea bargain where it's like, hey, I won't run a gun. I'll shut the fuck up about the fraud. I won't try to incite any more riots. And basically, in lieu of you dragging my name through the mud for 6 months through an impeachment process and fucking criminally prosecuting me for the fucked up shit that I did, even if you let me slide on taxes, I will shut the fuck up and I will disappear. And that's the only way that I wouldn't want prosecution to go forward, is basically if Trump pleads out and promises to shut the fuck up and go away.
Pisco, don't make it too long because we got to get back in.
Okay, thank you. I just want to briefly mention, I would hate myself if I didn't. Counterpoints, with all due love and respect, mentioned my argument before with respect to the police stuff as semantic. I don't agree with that characterization, but I'll leave it there. On the matter of impeachment, I think that people need to wake up. I've been saying for weeks, really years, that people don't take Trump seriously, and this starts to democracy and to our physical safety. And so I think that, it's very unlikely that the Senate will take up a trial before his presidency ends, but people need to wake up and realize that he is currently a danger to our democracy and our people. And the more we can move our country into a situation in which Trump has less leverage, or if Trump does something crazy, the Senate can reconvene quickly to get him out of office or remove him from office, the better. And I think all this time people have been underestimating him on what he's capable of, and it's shown recently in the Capitol riot, and I hope that it doesn't show again. And that's why I think impeachment proceedings are proper, and everyone's already explained why impeachment is the proper proceeding for the conduct that Trump had in office. And I think Nocommentchick was correct also in saying it's not the only thing of impeachable that Trump has committed in the last 4 years.
Okay, let's get into it.
So was there literally any disagreement?
I actually, yes, I do. I love Connor, and I think he says a lot of nice things, but holy fuck, Connor, I hate you right now. The idea that we would let him go and, like, give him a break on his taxes and all that shit as long as he shuts the fuck up. Look, I get the idea of that, but fuck, I hate that you said that, because I hate that idea of, like, letting him slide as long as he stops talking or whatever. Fuck me. Throw his ass in prison. Okay, I'm sorry, I had to...
So just to address it really briefly, so what I'm afraid of, if you prosecute him, drag him through the courts, destroy his name, all that kind of shit, you turn him into a martyr. And then if you turn him into a martyr and you take away everything that he really has no incentive to shut the fuck up. And that's where I'm worried that he would be able to inspire a certain level of terroristic devotion that would basically result in more loss of human life.
Is he already doing that?
This is a lot like the heckler's veto, right? If it would upset a lot of people, that means we have to stop it. It's kind of like if it disrupts the social order, well, a bunch of people have to come in and
listen,
buzz about it. So
if you guys want to go. If you guys want to go balls to the wall, prosecute his ass, throw him in jail, and then you're also ready to go to war with the Trump cult, then fuck it, let's do it. But but you have to be ready for that shit. You have to be ready for the next time that people come to Capitol Hill, they're going to have AR-15s and they're going to mean business. That's
what kind of point. Well, they're already doing that.
You have to let a kid get away with raising a fuss in the store.
There you go.
Throw a bigger tantrum later. Like, no, like you got to caution now, because I don't think they're allowing this to happen. Like, well, here you don't do it again. After you almost caused an insurrection on Capitol Hill, don't do it again.
Well, Pisco, is there such a thing? Is there such a thing as a non-prosecution agreement?
Yes, you could have such an agreement, but what I'm saying is, how far do you stretch your principle? If Trump were to literally, now he didn't do this, but if he literally was shooting staffers in the White House, would you extend the same gratitude to him? I mean,
no, of course not.
Okay,
no,
so
here's my problem with this. Hold on, I'm sorry, PCO. One thing that I'm surprised somebody hasn't brought up yet is the precedent. If we were to take your idea here, Connor, and let him go, and he becomes a martyr, or he doesn't become a martyr and all this, the problem is that sets a really fucking scary precedent for future presidents, for future supporters of people like this. They know now that if they go just towards the line but don't quite cross it, they can continue to push that to see how much further they can go. If we make a hard fucking deal of this, and if that means more riots that we got to quell from right-wing LARPing dipshits, and it sucks and it's an unfortunate deal, but I don't want to set the precedent that a president of the United States can do this and then get away with it better off and avoiding all of these prosecutions. That scares me.
Okay, my only counterpoint, see what I did there, is Nixon. So we didn't prosecute fucking Nixon in order for the country to fucking move on. And then also, I am going to hold you to this, because if we go ahead with prosecution and there's running gun battles in the streets of America because the Trump cultists come out, I don't have a problem with that. Basically, if you stand up to fight for fucking Trump, like this is actually what really pisses me off. Most of the people who have been co-opted to fight for Trump are allegedly libertarians. That blows my fucking mind. But if you're so fucking dumb that you're a libertarian, that you think you need to get into running gun battles with Trump in order to fucking preserve the union by installing him king, I don't care if the cops kill you. And that's like, okay, but I'm gonna hold you to that. So if we have running gun battles with Trump cultists in 6 months, you and I are going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about whether or not it was worth it.
I'm all, yeah, absolutely.
But take a second here. One is I think that these people who love Trump are motivated whether you impeach him or don't impeach him. So I think impeachment is the key here. And two is I think we should distinguish the Nixon case. And Nixon, he resigned. That is, say what you want. It seems to me an admission that there was wrongdoing by the part of Richard Nixon. And so you don't see that with Trump. And I think that
so what if he resigned? What if he resigned and he signed a non-prosecution agreement and he literally said, I will never take up the MAGA cause again?
If he resigned, I would say, don't impeach him. If he resigned and, I am for the quickest way for him to get out of office now. I think he's a danger and threat now. And you might think that I'm being highly inflammatory or I'm crazy, but I really think that he represents a danger to our country. I don't think he's going to go quietly even now. And mark my words. I hope that I'm wrong.
No, I literally agree with you. I think he could, if he had a Twitter account right now, he could it would literally be a 50-50 shot on whether or not he left quietly and whether or not he was like, hey, bring your AR-15s, come on January 20th, we're taking the shit. Literally, it's a 50-50 shot on whether or not he would do that.
Right. And that's why I think that, Pelosi talking to maybe she shouldn't have released a statement that she talked to the Joint Chiefs or whatever about the nuclear stuff. But the fact that we even have to have that conversation should signal to people that we are not out of the woods yet and don't get comfortable. And there are protests happening and armed protests in the next week and to be prepared for whatever. And so as a matter of just safety of ourselves, I think it makes sense to have the impeachment proceedings started.
So beyond the armed protests, right? There's that. And I don't think we should negotiate with terrorists. Fuck that, right?
That's a good point. We should look there for 1 second. Imagine if someone said, don't get involved in some war like World War II, right? Because we're afraid of the damage it might cause. Well, we're also afraid in the long run of just allowing, Hitler to win, or of allowing presidents to get to almost close to the finishing line of being tyrants. So I think that's a great point, Prime.
But what about those 74 million Americans, right? Who aren't going to actually take up arms, but who for whatever reason see that the election or believe that the election was stolen from them, believe that the system is out to get them, and I mean it is to a certain extent, but are aggrieved, and is what I'm getting at. They are aggrieved, and seeing the president, whom they still believe in for whatever fucking reason, they still believe in him, being dragged through another impeachment hearing after the debacle that was the first one, right? How do we move forward as a country? If we do this, I mean, the divisions will deepen even more if half the country watches this president be impeached once again. Is that worth it?
And I want to point out how you literally create an American civil war. Go after Trump as hard as you want to, turn him into a fucking martyr, and then introduce really strict gun control. That's straight. That's how you kill cops and feds. That's how you literally get people from the military to go home. If you it would almost take an intentional fuck up by Democrats, but I believe in Democrats and lefties to fuck up that hard. So literally prosecute fucking Trump to the fullest extent of the law, and then ban assault rifles and do a mandatory buyback. I guarantee you'll spark a civil war.
I want to jump in here because I'm a left-leaning guy, but I also like guns. I have to say, I get what you're saying, But one thing I have to imagine that the Democrats are not that fucking stupid that they would do that to Trump and then turn around mere weeks later or months later and try to do that. Like, I have to think if they go this route, they're probably smart enough to like lay off the gun control shit for a couple of years to let things calm down. I love guns. I own guns. I think they're great. I also do think gun control needs to be a little bit more handled, but I don't think the Dems are that stupid that they're going to be like, okay, we got Trump out of office. He's in prison. Boys, bring us all your guns. They're ours now, fuckers. Like, get fucked. Like,
we can stop by the courts too. I mean, you now have one of the most, talk about packing the courts, one of the most packed courts, federal judiciaries in history, with people who love Heller and will gladly strike down a law of Congress for violating the Second Amendment. So there's not much danger of that. And then Joe Manchin and those people they're not gonna overturn the legislative filibuster, and they're not gonna pass that legislation.
I appreciate your guys' optimism and pragmatism. I do. I hope you're completely fucking right. I really do.
My thing, Connor, would be that if you're willing to admit that Democrats constantly fuck up, do we really think they're going to be successful in passing gun control? They constantly fuck that shit up, dude. Come on.
Yeah, but see, like I trust Democrats to fuck shit up in like the stupidest way possible. So like it's like
fair.
So it's like you're asking me like, are they capable of achieving this? And I'm like, no. But then that makes that the more likely thing to happen.
True.
I would like to formally
I'm memeing. But
I'd
still.
like to formally state that I lost all my guns in a boating accident a few weeks ago. So
Oh, you poor guy.
Yeah, so it's really
What are you gonna
unfortunate.
do?
I don't know, man. Just lost him in the lake there.
Well, you said Counterpoints that you're constantly surprised at how bad and incompetent Democrats are. This is sort of in context of the impeachment proceedings. I think there's no indication that Republicans are going to move on from Trump, even if there were impeachment proceedings, and that seems highly destructive to their electoral chances. What do you guys think of, what is the future after Trump? I don't think that changes impeachment or no impeachment.
What's interesting? There was a poll that came out that I think it was less than half of Republicans supported the Capitol rioting thing.
Yeah,
just sort of interesting because on one hand, it's sort of scary that many would support it, but it's also fascinating that where there was such a split. Yeah, because it could be this could be an inflection point because I obviously this is purely anecdotal. We'll have to see how the data turns out, but I think that for a lot of conservatives, this is sort of a wake up call because a lot of like I said, I think in truth, a lot of what happened is a lot of conservatives sort of held their nose for Trump, voted for him, and sort of extended him a little bit of charity here and there on his rhetoric, and I think that got us to a bad point. But I think a lot of those people are like, all right, we're fucking done with the charity at this point. So I'm going to be really interested to see how fast the right breaks away from Trump coming up.
Normie conservatives did not think that they would ever see on their television sets conservatives beating the fuck out of cops. They literally they did not think that image was possible.
Yeah, and to the point of like what this looks like in the future, if there was ever a point in our country's history where the two-party system might break into more than two parties, I feel like we're getting close. The Republican Party, I think, is in an unbelievable amount of schism as far as the split, and this is exactly how the Bull Moose Party started when who was it? Roosevelt? Yeah, Roosevelt lost he lost the Republican nomination. He started his own party. It's the closest we've ever got to having like a third party actually make a decent showing. That was the closest we've ever gotten. That was back in what, like the fucking
Ross Perot. H. Ross Perot, you're forgetting. But other than that, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he didn't win any electoral votes.
That's true. He didn't. Yeah, but he was actually winning the election for a decent amount of time.
Right.
If you believe polls.
What I'm saying
can't trust polls, right?
This is the closest we're getting to the idea of a third party emerging because of the insane amount of schism on the right now as a result of this. And there's also like a huge call. I don't know if it's huge. It's huge on Twitter, but like a lot of left-leaning people in elected positions talking about pulling senators and shit like that and Congress people who were supporting Trump and taking them out of office because they were supporting this shit. People like Cruz, for instance, like. Yeah. Even if Trump doesn't get impeached or fucked over, there's a chance that some of these Congress people are going to get fucked because the Republicans who want to stay in power might want to turn tail and like fuck over people like Cruz just so they can keep their position by sort of appeasing the Democrats by getting rid of the real problem.
Yeah, but how do you square that with the MAGA and America First movement?
Well,
because it's still a large constituency.
If you want to win, though, but it's not a winning constituency team. Like Georgia, Drew was talking about wake-up calls. I think another wake-up call should have been Georgia and Arizona. And for conservatives like Drew, that you guys should be feeling vindicated because the candidates there who are much more pro-Trump because they were forced into it, just did not have good enough showings. And for states that were solid red, they're now turning purple, if not swing states. Arizona. I think that is a wake-up call to, where is the next presidential coalition going to come from? Think about the last ones. The regular conservatives didn't work either. McCain lost, Mitt Romney lost. Where do you go from here? I don't know that there's an answer to that. I think Republicans need to do some soul searching.
I've got money down on Dan Crenshaw trying to run for president before too long. I got money down.
Yeah, I just want to say one quick thing that's very important in this conversation. Fuck Mitch McConnell. Go elsewhere.
Okay.
I'd like to apologize on behalf of Kentucky for Mitch McConnell.
Thank you. Fuck.
So I'm going to give you.
Hi, I'm Irene. Nocommentchick. You can follow me here at Twitch at Nocommentchick. You can follow me on YouTube at Nocommentchick. You can even follow my gaming channel on YouTube as NoConsoleChick. I love being here for Prime's panels. I think your panels are bomb, Prime. I learned so much stuff by being on your panels that I never would have known otherwise. Like I didn't know anything about sex robots and sex dolls, but I learned that from here. So everybody go support Prime. I don't think I've said that enough. Give your subs to Prime. Help Prime out. Prime does a lot of legwork. Dealing with egos like this one right here, chat, it's no easy matter. And Prime honestly put up with a lot from me tonight. So I thank you very much, Prime. Yeah, go follow the YouTube videos are great. We've been talking with Destiny a lot lately, so go check those out. And definitely we do debate analysis. We do React content, debates proper, and then on Friday, of course, is the Bird Brains panel at 4:00 Eastern time US that last week featured my debate with my knockdown, throw out, drag out debate with one Stephen Bonnell II. So definitely go check that out, and everybody give some mad love to Prime and to Jangles and to everybody on. I honestly love you all, and I get passionate, but I don't fucking hate anybody. Seriously.
Wasn't that the third time you brought him up?
Oh fuck.
Oh no!
Quick, end it, guys. Let's go. Outros.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Well, yeah, you're gonna have this. Yeah, sorry, Prime, or not sorry. I don't know. Maybe this is a good thing.